It is February 13th, 2017. A Monday. A school holiday. The kind of day that feels like a gift. No classes, no bells, nothing pressing. Just two best friends, a hiking trail, and the kind of cold Midwestern afternoon that bites at your cheeks and makes you pull your hood a little tighter. 14-year-old Libby German and 13-year-old Abby Williams are on the Monon High Bridge trail, just outside their hometown of Delphi. They have been here before. They know this trail. The old rail bridge stretches high over Deer Creek below, and from up here, the view is exactly the kind of thing a teenager photographs and posts to Snapchat. So Libby pulls out her phone, and she does post to Snapchat. She posts a photo of the bridge. She posts a photo of Abby walking across it, her back to the camera.
Okay. And then we also took some knives. Okay. We took your car, and then we also took a weapon, a SIG 40, right?
Okay. Something shifts, because Libby keeps her phone out, and she starts recording something else entirely. There's a man on the bridge. He is walking toward them, deliberately, hands stuffed in his pockets, head slightly down. He does not belong here. He does not look like he is hiking. He looks like he is hunting. And Libby, this 14-year-old girl who has no police training and no one to call and no time to think, does something extraordinary. She keeps recording. The video captures him. It captures his walk, slow, steady, certain, and somewhere on that bridge, close enough that the phone picks it up, the man speaks. 3 words. Guys down the hill. And then the recording ends. What happens next is the question that will consume an entire nation for 5 years. What happens next is the reason you're watching this. What happens next is something no family should ever have to survive, but 2 families do. And they carry it every single day. But before we get there, we need to go back. Because to understand what that man took on that bridge, you first need to know who Abby and Libby were. Because that clip, those 3 seconds of grainy phone footage of a man walking across a bridge, is about to become one of the most significant pieces of evidence in the history of American true crime. Police will release it to the public. Millions of people will watch it. Detectives will analyze every frame. Audio experts will study the voice. And for 5 long years, the man in that video will walk free. He will live in Delphi. He will work in Delphi. He will drive past the memorial for the girls he is accused of killing. And for 5 years, nobody catches him. So ask yourself this. How does someone commit a crime like this in broad daylight, on a public trail, with his face and his voice captured on a victim's own phone, and simply disappear back into the community? The answer is complicated, and it reveals everything wrong with what is about to unfold. But right now, before we go any further, you need to know who these girls were. Because they were not just victims. They were not just case numbers. They were daughters. They were friends. They were girls who laughed too loud and made plans for the weekend and had no idea that a winter afternoon hike would be the last thing they ever did together. This is the story of Abby Williams and Libby German. And this story does not end on that bridge. This story ends in a courtroom, with a verdict, with a sentence, and with a question that still does not have a clean answer. Even now, even after the jury speaks, even after the judge delivers her words. Was justice served? Or did the investigation fail these girls from the very beginning? Stay with me, because this story is about to go somewhere you do not expect. Delphi, Indiana, is the kind of town where everyone knows everyone. Population, around 3,000. 1 main street. A school system small enough that teachers remember your name years after you graduate. The kind of place where a missing teenager immediately becomes the whole town's emergency, because that teenager belongs to everyone. Abigail Joyce Williams is born on June 23, 2003. 13 years old, 8th grade, Delphi Community Middle School. She has a quiet way about her, the kind of girl who observes before she speaks, who feels deeply, who holds her friendships close. She is not loud or showy. She is steady. She's the kind of friend you call when something goes wrong, because she actually listens. Liberty Rose German, Libby, is born on December 27th, 2002. She is 14, a few months older than Abby, and where Abby is quiet, Libby is switched on. She's described by everyone who loves her as sharp, funny, quick to laugh. She has her grandfather Mike Patty's stubborn streak and her grandmother Becky's warmth. She lives with her grandparents, who raise her with the kind of love that fills a house. Abby and Libby are best friends. Not just close friends, best friends in the particular way that only middle school girls understand. They are each other's emergency contact for every crisis that matters at 13 and 14. They text constantly. They make plans. They make each other laugh at exactly the wrong moments. They're the kind of friends that do not need to explain themselves because the other person already knows. On the morning of February 13th, 2017, Libby's older sister Kelsey wakes up ready to do something nice for her little sister and her best friend. It is a school holiday. Indiana schools are out, and the girls want to spend the day at the Monon High Bridge trail. They have been there before. It is a well-known local spot. Families hike it. Couples walk it. There is no reason, on this particular Monday morning, to think of it as anything other than a beautiful place to spend a cold winter afternoon. Kelsey drives them. She drops them off at County Road 300 North, east of the Hoosier Heartland Highway, at approximately 1:30 in the afternoon. They step out of the car. The air is cold, mid-30s gray sky, dry ground. Before they separate, Kelsey and Libby look at each other. "We told each other we loved each other," Kelsey will later say, "and that was the last time I saw her." The girls walk down the trail toward the bridge, and right there, right at that moment, the world these two families have always known begins to end. They just do not know it yet. Kelsey German will replay that car ride for the rest of her life. That moment, those words, did I hold on long enough? Did she know? She knew, but that does not make it easier to carry. If you're watching this and you feel that weight, that particular grief, then you already understand why these stories matter. Hit subscribe right now, not for the content, for Abby, for Libby, for every family sitting somewhere tonight, wondering if the world even remembers. This channel remembers. Subscribe and make sure you are here for the rest of this story, because we're not even close to done. If this story is hitting you, if you feel something watching this, that is exactly why these stories need to be told. Hit subscribe right now. Hit the notification bell, because every week we are here giving real victims a voice that the world needs to hear. This one matters. The trail is quiet on February 13th, 2017. That detail matters, because quiet is not safe. Quiet is concealment. And on this particular trail, on this particular afternoon, quiet means there is almost no one around to help if something goes wrong. Abby and Libby reach the Monon High Bridge, an old, weathered railroad bridge that rises above Deer Creek. From up here, you can see the tree line in both directions. You can feel the height. The bridge is wide enough to walk across, with old wooden planks and open metal rails. And from this angle, the landscape of rural Indiana stretches out in every direction. It is beautiful. It is also isolated. Just after 2 p.m., Libby opens Snapchat on her phone. She posts a photo of the bridge itself, the long planks stretching out ahead of her, the view down toward the creek below. Then she posts a second photo. This one is of Abby walking across the bridge, her back to the camera, wearing a dark coat. She's just walking, just a girl on a bridge on a cold afternoon, captured in the ordinary way that teenagers capture each other 100 times a day. That post is the last correspondence anyone received from either of them. At some point in the early afternoon, they're supposed to meet Libby's father. The plan is straightforward. Hike for a while, get picked up, go home, have dinner, move on to the next ordinary day. But when the pickup time comes and goes, no one is there. Libby's father waits. He calls. No answer. He tries Abby's phone. Silence. Parents begin making calls. By the time the afternoon light fades and the temperature drops, the alarm is real. Not just a feeling, not just a parent's instinct, but a confirmed spreading fear. The girls are not answering. They are not at the trail. They are not anywhere anyone can find them. Delphi begins to search. Neighbors, volunteers, law enforcement. The search moves through the woods and along the creek and back across the trail. The same trail where less than 2 hours earlier, two girls were laughing and posting photos and thinking about nothing except the cold air and the view from the bridge. The community searches through the night. And on the morning of February 14th, 2017, Valentine's Day, they find them. The bodies of Abby Williams and Libby German are discovered near the Monon High Bridge, approximately a mile from where they were last seen. They're found partially covered with sticks. Prosecutors will later say both girls died from cuts to the throat. Abby is 13 years old. Libby is 14. And on Libby's phone, the phone she never stopped holding, there's a video. Go back to that bridge. But this time, you know what you are about to watch. This time, the grainy footage is not just evidence. It is a record of the last minutes of two girls' lives. And knowing that changes everything about how you see it. Libby is holding her phone. She has already posted the photo of the bridge. She has already posted the photo of Abby. But she does not put the phone away. Because something has changed on that bridge, and somewhere in the quick, instinctive part of Libby German's brain, a warning is firing. There is a man. He is not a hiker passing through. He does not nod or wave or step aside. He is moving toward them with a kind of purpose that does not belong on an afternoon trail walk. His hands are in his pockets. His head is slightly down. He is wearing jeans and a dark jacket. He is a white male, and he is moving steadily, deliberately in the direction of these two girls. And Libby keeps her phone pointed at him. What she captures will become one of the most analyzed pieces of video footage in true crime history. Investigators will go over every frame. They will study his gait, his posture, the angle of his body as he walks. They will try to calculate his height and his build. And they will circle back to this footage again and again over the next 5 years, because it is the closest thing they have to the face of a killer. The video is short, just seconds, but it is enough, because somewhere on that bridge, close enough for the phone to capture it, he speaks. Guys down the hill. 3 words. Low. Commanding. Not asking. Telling. And those 3 words do something remarkable. They survive. They survive the wind. They survive the distance. They survive whatever happens next on that bridge. They survive because Libby German has the presence of mind in what must have been the most terrifying moment of her young life, to keep that phone recording. Prosecutors will later praise her for it. Carroll County Prosecutor Nick McClelland will call it arguably the biggest piece of evidence that we had. He will also praise Abby, because it is later established that Abby hides the phone. Somewhere in those final moments, before the unthinkable happens, Abby conceals Libby's phone from the killer, which is why police find it, which is why the recording survives. These two 13 and 14-year-old girls, in the worst moment of their lives, think to protect the evidence. Let that land for a moment. They protect the evidence. And then the recording ends. And Indiana State Police Lieutenant Jerry Holman will later stand in a courtroom and describe what happens next in terms so direct and clinical that the courtroom goes silent. The girls are stalked, he says. They are kidnapped. They are humiliated. He says they are treated like animals. Abby's last words, captured on Libby's phone, are 4. Don't leave me up here. I want you to pause for just 1 second. If you're not subscribed yet, do it right now. Because the next part of this story, the investigation, the failures, the 5 years of silence is where this case gets complicated in ways nobody talks about. You do not want to miss it. Subscribe. I will see you in the next few minutes. On February 14th, 2017, Indiana State Police announced what Delphi already fears. Abby Williams and Libby German are dead. The crime scene is described by investigators as complex and deeply disturbing. An FBI agent, in a search warrant request filed just weeks later, states that the girls' bodies appear to have been moved and staged. Multiple officers who examine the scene privately believe it is too complex for one person to have carried out alone. The positioning of the bodies raises questions that investigators will not answer publicly for years. The whole nation watches Delphi grieve. And then Indiana State Police do something unusual. 3 days after the murders, on February 16th, 2017, they release a still image from Libby's phone. A grainy, blurred frame from the video. A man walking on the bridge, hands in pockets, face partially visible. They call him Bridge Guy, and they release the audio clip, 3 words, guys down the hill. They ask the public for help. This is the move that turns the Delphi murders into a national case. Millions of people hear that voice. Millions of people study that image. Tips pour in from across the country. The state police receives thousands of submissions. And for a town of 3,000 people, the weight of that attention is enormous. Because while the whole Libby German's phone captures what is almost certainly the killer walking across the Monon High Bridge. The image is grainy. It is a smartphone video shot in motion in natural light on a cold afternoon. But it is real. It is undeniable. The man is there. He is moving toward the girls. And investigators study it frame by frame, looking for anything they can use. His height, estimated at approximately 5'6" to 5'10", his build, described as average to heavy, the way he walks, slightly hunched, feet turned out. They analyze his gait. Gait analysis is used in forensic investigation, but it is imprecise. It is supporting evidence, not definitive identification. Still, it gives investigators a profile to work from. Then there is the voice. 3 words, guys down the hill. The audio is short but distinctive. It is a male voice, low, controlled, local flat Midwestern accent. Law enforcement releases it publicly and receives thousands of responses from people who claim to recognize it. None of those leads produce an arrest. Audio experts analyze it, trying to narrow the field. But voice analysis without a direct comparison is difficult. Then there are the 2 sketches. The first sketch, released in 2017, depicts an older male, heavy-set face, middle-aged features. It is based on witness accounts from people who were on or near the trail that day. The second sketch, released in 2019, depicts a younger man with softer features. Investigators explain the new sketch is based on new witness information. But the difference between the 2 becomes critical later, because the man who is eventually arrested does not look particularly like either of them. Then there is the physical evidence. Near the bodies of Abby and Libby, investigators find something small and critical, an unspent .40 caliber cartridge, a round that has been cycled through a firearm but not fired. It is the kind of detail that breaks a case open, or that becomes the center of a raging legal argument. Because whoever left that round owns a .40 caliber gun, and whoever owns a .40 caliber gun registered in the Delphi area is suddenly a person of interest. The investigators have one more thing that matters, a misfiled tip. In September 2022, a volunteer file clerk working to digitize old tips in the case notices something wrong. A tip submitted years earlier has been filed incorrectly. The suspect's last name was recorded wrong, which meant the tip was marked as cleared when it should have been investigated. The file clerk corrects the error, and the name on that tip is Richard Allen. We're about to get to the arrest. Stay locked in for this. Subscribe, like, and share. Richard Allen is not just shocking. It raises questions about the investigation that investigators do not have clean answers for. If you're not subscribed, do it right now. Drop a comment below what you think happened. Were justice served? I read every single one. Now, Richard Allen. Richard Matthew Allen is born in September 1972. He grows up in Mexico, Indiana, a small town even by Indiana standards. He plays football and runs track in high school. He attends Ivy Tech Community College. He does a brief stint in the U.S. Army and National Guard. He marries. He has 1 daughter. By 2006, he is living in Delphi, having moved from Mexico while working as a store manager at a Walmart in neighboring Logansport. He is, by every external measure, an ordinary man. By the time the murders happen in February 2017, Alan works at a CVS pharmacy in Delphi. He is 44 years old. He processes customers' photos. He fills prescriptions. He is a familiar face in a small town. Libby's family later reveals that Alan processed photos for them and did not charge them. 3 days after the murders of Abby and Libby, Alan does something that seems, on its surface, like the right thing to do. He self-reports to a Department of Natural Resources officer. He says he was on the trail the day the girls went missing. He says he did not see them. He says he has nothing to do with the murders. He is interviewed. His statement is taken. And then, somehow, the tip with his name on it gets filed under the wrong last name. It is marked as cleared, and Richard Allen quietly returns to his life in Delphi. He works at CVS. He lives in town. He drives past the memorial. For 5 years, in September 2022, the misfiled tip is discovered. Investigators pull Allen's name back into focus. They look at what they have: a man who admitted being on the trail the day of the murders, a man whose gun fires the same caliber round found near the bodies, a man who has lived in Delphi the whole time. On October 31st, 2022, Halloween, Indiana State Police Superintendent Doug Carter stands at a press conference and announces the arrest of Richard Allen for the murders of Abby Williams and Libby German. Delphi exhales, but the story is not over. It is only beginning, because Allen's arrest immediately opens a legal whirlwind. His attorneys raise serious concerns about the investigation. They argue that the warrant used to search Allen's home contained misleading information, specifically that investigators told the judge Allen was the last person to have contact with the girls, without mentioning that eyewitness descriptions of the suspect on the trail describe someone very different. Witnesses describe a man in his 20s with curly, brown hair. At the time of the murders, Allen is 44 and has very short hair. His attorneys also argue that the .40 caliber round found near the bodies does not definitively link Allen to the crime. A prosecution expert testifies that the round was cycled through Allen's specific Sig Sauer model P226. The defense challenges this, pointing to limited documentation around the cartridge and arguing that the evidence was mishandled. Then there is the confession. While held in pretrial custody, in conditions that include extended periods of solitary confinement, Allen begins to confess. He tells the facility psychologist, Dr. Monica Walla, "I killed Abby and Libby. I am sorry." He says he originally planned to sexually assault the victims, but fled when he saw a van nearby. He says he cut their throats. He says he covered their bodies with sticks. His defense team argues these confessions are unreliable. They paint a picture of a man in severe mental health crisis, a man who, during months in isolation, begins eating his own feces, banging his head against the wall, insisting he is already dead. A psychiatrist testifies for the defense that prolonged solitary confinement can render a person delusional and psychotic. Dr. Walla, who took his confessions, is later revealed to have listened to true crime podcasts about Allen's case for 3 hours a day during her commute and posted about the case on social media while she was treating him. The defense also presents a theory that divides public opinion sharply. They argue the murders were a ritual killing connected to Norse paganism, Odinism, and that police initially investigated 2 Indiana-based groups with links to Odinist practice before pivoting entirely to Allen. They note that the positioning of Abby's body allegedly mirrors Odinist symbolism. They argue blood markings near the scene resemble runes. The judge rules this theory cannot be presented to the jury. The prosecution calls it a fanciful defense for social media to devour. The trial takes place in October and November 2024, 7 years after the murders. The jury, 7 women and 5 men, deliberates for approximately 19 hours across 3 days. On November 11th, 2024, they return a verdict of guilty on all 4 counts. On December 20th, 2024, 2 days before Christmas, Judge Francis Gull sentences Richard Allen to 130 years in prison, 65 years for each murder, to run consecutively. She looks at Allen and says, "I've spent 27 years as a judge, and you rank right up there with the most heinous crimes in the state of Indiana. These families will deal with your carnage forever." Allen sits expressionless as the sentence is read. He looks over at the seats reserved for his family. They are empty. Not a single relative has come. Libby's grandfather, Mike Patty, thanks the investigators, thanks the community, thanks the jury. Becky Patty, Libby's grandmother, describes the moment Allen processed their family photos and did not charge them. "He developed photos with no remorse," she says, "and he didn't blink." And Abby's grandmother, who sits through every day of testimony, even the most graphic, even the hardest, tells the court she does it because of Abby's last words. For words captured on Libby's phone. "Don't leave me up here." She says, "I refuse to leave her." If this story moved you, if the bravery of these families, the courage of these girls, the years of fighting for justice means anything to you, then do one thing right now. Share this video, because Abby and Libby deserve more than a headline. They deserve to be remembered. Share it. Subscribe. And if you want to see more stories like this, stories that go deep, that respect the victims, that do not look away, hit that bell. I will be here every week. And this story, their story, does not belong to the man who tried to erase them. It belongs to them. Rest in peace, Abby Williams. Rest in peace, Libby German. We have not forgotten. We will not forget. And as long as stories like this are told, with honesty, with care, with the respect these girls deserve, they're not gone. They're right here.